Welcome to serene slumber tales, where dreams are gently cradled and sleep drifts toward you like a soft mist over a quiet meadow. As you prepare to rest tonight, I invite you to take a deep, unhurried breath. Inhale softly, feeling your lungs expand like the sails of a ship catching a gentle breeze. Hold it, just for a moment, and now exhale slowly, letting go of any tension that might be clinging to you. Again, breathe in, calm, steady, peaceful, hold. And breathe out, releasing the day, the noise, the busy thoughts that no longer serve you. Allow yourself to sink deeper into the comfort of your bed. Feel the weight of the mattress beneath you, supporting you completely, like the earth itself holding you in its embrace. Notice your shoulders softening, your jaw unclenching, your eyelids growing heavier. Imagine now that you are standing on the edge of a tranquil Irish coastline. The night is calm, the sea dark and vast, stretching endlessly before you. The gentle hush of waves rolls in again and again, like a lullaby whispered by the ocean. A faint silver light rests on the horizon, where the moon peers out from drifting clouds. As you breathe in, you smell the salt of the sea air. As you breathe out, you hear the distant call of seabirds settling in for the night. A cool breeze brushes against your face, carrying with it the ancient whispers of Ireland, the songs of myths, the murmur of legends, the poetry of old folk tales carried across time. Tonight, as you rest, I will guide you through an enchanting journey woven from the myths and folk tales of Ireland, stories told by flickering firesides, passed down through generations and steeped in the magic of a land where the veil between the seen and unseen is thinner than the mist. So let go now. Let your breath flow naturally like a tide. With every exhale, feel your body drifting deeper and deeper into comfort, your mind opening like a book, ready to be filled with stories of wonder. And so, our tale begins. In the heart of Ireland, where emerald hills rolled like gentle waves and rivers shimmered under the quiet glow of starlight, there lived an old storyteller named Eamon. His cottage stood on the very edge of a small, sleepy village, its walls worn smooth by the hands of countless seasons. The thatched roof leaned slightly from the weight of time, a little crooked in places, yet all the more charming for it. From the crooked chimney, there was always a ribbon of smoke drifting upward into the evening sky, carrying with it the comforting scent of peat and wood fire. Inside, the cottage was warm and humble. The stone hearth glowed with embers, shelves bowed under the weight of books, trinkets, and jars of dried herbs. And there, by the fire, sat Eamon, wrapped in his woolen cloak, his pipe resting idly nearby, though he rarely smoked it. His joy was not in tobacco, but in words. Children often gathered at his doorstep, their eyes wide and curious, cheeks rosy from the brisk air, eager for the magic that spilled from his lips. They would crowd together on the old stone wall that lined the path to his door, whispering with excitement, waiting for him to appear. And though the little ones were bold enough to beg outright for a story of fairies, warriors, or the hidden folk who danced in the forests, the grown folk, too, longed for his tales. Men and women would pass by his window slowly, pretending to be on some errand, yet slowing their steps to hear his voice drift into the night. For Eamon's stories were not like others. They were not simply told, but lived. His words carried a rhythm, like the tide washing against the shore, steady and soothing. His eyes glowed with a quiet fire, like embers holding secrets of long-forgotten worlds. Some whispered when the fire was low and the night stretched long, that Eamon had once wandered beyond the veil of this world, that he had stepped into the hidden realms where fairies danced, where the old gods lingered, where shadows and dreams were as real as daylight. And when he returned, they said, he brought back pockets full of stories, gifts from the other world. Whether true or not, no one could deny the way his words wrapped around the soul like a warm blanket. One evening, when the winds sighed through the trees and the stars spilled across the heavens like scattered pearls, Eamon stepped outside his cottage. His voice, though soft, carried through the quiet village. "Tonight," he called, his words steady as the flames within him, "I shall tell you of the enchanted lake of Lough and of the secret that slumbers beneath its waters." The villagers came quickly. Children ran barefoot across the grass, clutching their cloaks tight. Mothers and fathers followed, shawls drawn around their shoulders, cheeks flushed with the cold. Even the elders, who claimed to have no patience for foolish stories, shuffled nearer, their eyes betraying their eagerness. They gathered close around the fire Eamon had built outside, its glow dancing across their faces, flickering gold upon the night. The air was cool, with just enough bite to make the warmth of the flames feel like a blessing. The scent of smoke mingled with damp earth and distant rain, and when all was settled, Eamon began. His voice was calm and low, yet rich with wonder, as though he were not inventing a tale at all, but remembering it. "There is a lake," he said, "vast and deep, where the moon leans down at night to kiss the water's surface. Lough, the ancients called it. It lies cradled by green hills, its shores touched by mist and silence. But it is no ordinary lake. Beneath its surface, hidden in the blue-black depths, there lies a secret older than any village, older than any kingdom." The children leaned in, their breath soft in the air. Even the adults forgot the chill that clung to their bones, for Eamon's words wove a spell as delicate as silver thread. "They say," he continued, "that long ago, when the world was young, a queen of the hidden folk wept upon that water. Her tears fell like stars, shimmering, and where they touched, the lake was born. She hid within it something precious, something so powerful that even the bravest warriors dared not disturb it. A treasure, yes, but not gold, not jewels, not riches. A treasure of spirit, of memory, of song." Eamon's eyes reflected the firelight, glowing as though he himself had seen the queen weep. His voice grew softer, slower, drawing his listeners deeper into the quiet trance of his tale. "And on still nights," he said, "when the wind rests and the rain whispers against the grass, the waters of Lough sing, a faint song, carried across the surface like a lullaby. Some say it is the queen herself, still mourning. Others say it is the treasure calling out, longing to be found. But those who follow the sound too far, they never return." The fire crackled, sending sparks upward into the starry sky. A hush fell over the gathering. The children huddled closer together. The grown folk folded their arms as though guarding themselves against a chill that came not from the air, but from the story itself. Eamon's voice, however, did not frighten. It soothed. The rhythm of his words was steady, like the rocking of a boat, like the rise and fall of breath in the night. "Once, long ago," he said, "a young man from a nearby village thought to seek the secret of the lake. He was bold, strong, and curious. Night after night, he sat at its shore, listening to the song. At first it was faint, like the hum of distant bees, but in time it grew clearer, like the voice of someone standing just behind him. And so one night he followed. He waded into the waters, his heart full of wonder. The moonlight wrapped around him, the stars glistened above. And then he vanished, gone as though he had stepped into another world." The villagers shivered. A log shifted in the fire, sending a spray of sparks into the air. "Some believe he found the treasure," Eamon whispered. "Others believe he was taken, carried into the queen's hidden realm beneath the lake. Perhaps he lives still, in a place where time itself is different, where the air is thick with song. None can say. But on nights when the stars are bright, when the wind holds its breath, some claim they hear his voice joining in the song of the lake. And if you listen closely, perhaps you might hear it too." Eamon let his words drift into silence. The crackle of the fire filled the pause, the sound as comforting as a heartbeat. The villagers sat quietly, as though unwilling to move too quickly and break the fragile enchantment. The children's eyes were heavy now, their heads nodding against their parents' shoulders. Even the adults felt a drowsiness tug at them, a calmness settling into their bones. For Eamon's tale was more than words. It was a lullaby, a gentle weaving of sound and silence, carrying them into rest. At last, Eamon smiled. He leaned back, his cloak falling around him, and gazed at the fire. "That," he said softly, "is the secret of the Enchanted Lake. A secret not of riches, but of dreams. And perhaps tonight, when you close your eyes, you may drift upon its waters yourself." The villagers rose slowly, quietly, as though afraid to disturb the magic that lingered in the air. One by one they returned to their homes, their hearts lighter, their minds quieter, their spirits soothed, and Eamon, the old storyteller, sat by his fire a while longer, listening to the night, the crackle of the flames, and perhaps the faintest echo of a song carried on the wind. Long ago, before the villages were built, before roads stretched like ribbons across the land, Ireland was a vast and untamed place of forest, river, and sky. The winds carried the scent of pine and heather, and the rivers coursed like silver veins through the emerald hills. In those ancient days, it was said that the gods of the Tuatha De Danann walked freely upon the earth. They were beings of great beauty and power, guardians of wisdom, keepers of magic, and tricksters of mischief, their presence woven into every whisper of the leaves, every ripple of the waters. In the west of Ireland, there lay a lake so vast and deep it seemed to hold the very heavens within it. This was Lough Corrib, a mirror of the sky by day, a field of stars by night. Yet the lake was not only a place of stillness and reflection. Beneath its waters, beyond the veil of the mortal world, stretched a hidden kingdom, a realm of the Cedar, the fairy folk who dwelt between worlds. Their halls were made of crystal and pearl, lit by lanterns of fireflies, where music never ceased and time itself flowed differently. At the heart of this hidden realm lived Oisín, a fairy princess unlike any other, her hair pale as moonlight drifting upon water, her eyes shining like morning dew. She was beloved by her people, cherished for her kindness and her gentle spirit. Yet even within her enchanted palace, surrounded by song and splendor, her heart carried a quiet sorrow, a longing for something she could not name. Though she was born to the realm of magic, Oisín often gazed toward the shore where mortals built their cottages and lit their hearths against the dark. She envied their simplicity, their warmth, their closeness to one another. In the laughter of fishermen, in the songs that spilled from their gatherings, she sensed a kind of life her world could not provide, a life of raw joy, fleeting but full, unpolished and real. One evening, drawn by a pull stronger than duty or fear, Oisín rose from the waters of Lough Corrib. She draped herself in a cloak of silver thread that shimmered like liquid starlight, and with steps as soft as shadows, she walked upon the earth. Her feet touched the grass, leaving no mark, yet the land seemed to awaken beneath her tread. As she wandered, her ears caught the sound of fiddles and pipes, lively and untamed, weaving through the night air. Following the music, she found herself before a small cottage, warm light spilling from its windows. Inside, the villagers danced in a circle, their feet tapping against the wooden floor, their voices lifted in laughter and song. Oisín slipped through the door unnoticed, the glow of the fire bathing her in gold, and for that night she became one of them. She danced with the rhythm of the music, her cloak flowing like water, her laughter mingling with theirs as if she had always belonged. Among the dancers was a young man named Cormac, the son of a fisherman, with dark hair, strong hands, and eyes that shone with the honesty of the sea. When his gaze met Oisín's, time seemed to falter. He did not see just a stranger, but something beyond, an aura of light cloaked in mystery, a presence that stirred something ancient within him, and though Oisín knew she should retreat before dawn, she could not resist the pull of his gaze. Night after night she returned, each time slipping away before the first blush of morning. Their bond deepened in secret, fragile yet bright as a flame sheltered against the wind. They walked the moonlit shores together, speaking in whispers as though afraid the night itself might overhear. They lingered beneath oak trees older than memory, dreaming of a life where fairy and human could live as one, their hearts unburdened by the laws of their two worlds. To Cormac, she was a wonder beyond imagining. To Oisín, he was the answer to the yearning she had carried all her life. Their love blossomed like wildflowers, tender and unstoppable, and for a time it seemed as though nothing could separate them. But in the realm beneath the lake, the Sidí do not easily let go of their own. It was not long before Oisín's father, the fairy king, discovered her absences. His fury was terrible, but greater still was his fear. He knew that the love of a mortal could bind Oisín's spirit, anchoring her to the human world, pulling her forever beyond his reach. He would not allow the daughter of the cedar to slip away into a life of fleeting years, no matter how deep her longing, and so he called upon the old powers. Standing upon the shore of Lough Corrib, he raised his hands, summoning a storm that raged across the waters for 7 nights and 7 days. The skies split with lightning, the winds howled like wolves, and waves rose high as walls, crashing against the rocks with a fury that shook the earth. The village by the lake cowered beneath the storm's wrath, their fires drowned by rain, their boats tossed like leaves upon the water. Cormac, refusing to yield, set out upon the lake in his small fishing boat, his heart set only upon reaching Oisín once more. But the storm was merciless. When at last the skies cleared and the waters stilled, his boat lay shattered upon the rocks, its timbers broken like brittle bone. The villagers found no trace of him, no body, no voice, only a cloak of silver drifting upon the water, gleaming softly in the morning light. They say that Oisín, stricken with grief, returned to the depths of the lake, her spirit bound forever beneath its waters. Her laughter faded from the cottage dances, her footsteps no longer touched the grass, but her presence lingered in the stillness of Lough Corrib. And so the people whisper, even now, that when the moon is full and the night is calm, you can hear her song drifting across the surface of the lake. It is a melody soft and lilting, rising and falling like the tide, carrying both sorrow and love. Some say it is her lament for Cormac, a call to the one she lost to the storm. Others say it is her gift to the world she longed for, a lullaby to soothe the weary, a blessing to those who listen. And though the Cedar Kingdom remains hidden, its halls unseen beneath the water, Oisín's voice is said to echo still, a bridge between worlds, a reminder that love, once kindled, never truly fades. On such nights, when the wind rests and the stars are bright, villagers who pause to listen by the shore swear they can hear not one song, but 2. Oisín's silver voice entwined with the deeper tones of a fisherman's soul, joined forever in the music of the Enchanted Lake. Eamon's voice grew softer as the story ended, like embers dimming in the hearth after a long night of warmth and glow. His words seemed to linger in the air even after they were spoken, as though the echoes of the tale themselves were reluctant to fade. The villagers sat in silence, wrapped in shawls and cloaks, their faces illuminated by the gentle firelight. None dared to move too quickly, for fear of breaking the fragile magic that still clung to the night. The image of the fairy princess Oisín lingered in their minds, her silver cloak drifting upon the lake, her song rising like mist over the dark waters. It was as if she had stepped into the village itself, leaving her presence among them, and though the story was only words, it felt as real as the stars glittering overhead. Even the oldest of the villagers, those who claimed to be hardened against fancies and tales, felt the stirring of something ancient within them, a quiet ache of longing they could not name. For in every heart, young and old alike, there is a place where stories plant their roots, and Eamon knew well how to water them with the rhythm of his voice. Outside, the wind carried a hush over the wide fields, brushing against tall grass and the hedgerows that lined the edges of the village. It was not a harsh wind, not a biting gale, but a gentle sigh, as if the land itself was exhaling in contentment after hearing the tale. Above, the stars blinked like watchful eyes, distant yet alive, scattered across the heavens in patterns that seemed to shift and shimmer if one stared long enough. Somewhere far away, beyond the hills and cliffs, the sea whispered against the shore. Its waves rose and fell in a rhythm so steady it could have been mistaken for the heartbeat of the earth, repeating the cadence of the story itself, as though nature had joined in the telling. The villagers, listening in silence, became part of that rhythm. Their breathing slowed, their bodies relaxed, and even the children who had clung to every word now let their heads fall against their mother's shoulders, eyelids fluttering as dreams began to creep in with soft, unseen steps. The story of Oisín had opened a door inside them, and now sleep drifted through, quiet and irresistible. Eamon leaned back in his chair, the old wood creaking softly beneath him. His cloak hung loose about his shoulders, and the glow of the firelight reflected gently in his weary but contented eyes. He did not speak loudly, for the night was already filled with enough wonder, but instead let his words fall like a blessing. "Sleep well," he murmured, his voice low and even, the way a father might speak to a child. "For in dreams the fairies walk freely, and perhaps, if your heart is open, you may yet hear the song of Oisín." He watched as the last of the children drifted into slumber, their small faces calm, their breathing steady, the weight of the waking world already lifting from their shoulders. The adults too, though awake still, seemed softened by drowsiness, their eyes heavy, their postures loose, as though the boundary between waking and dreaming had thinned. In this softened state, even they could almost believe that when they lay down to rest, their spirits might wander by the shores of Lough Corrib and hear the silver notes of Oisín's lament carried across the still water. For a time, the night held the village in perfect stillness. The fire sank lower, crackling quietly as embers shifted in the ash, and the air grew cooler with the deepening dark. Yet the calm that settled was not one of emptiness, but of fullness, as if the story itself remained behind to keep watch, filling every cottage with peace. Eamon closed his eyes, tilting his head back slightly, and listened to the sounds of the night. The faint rustle of the fields, the sigh of the wind in the trees, the distant hum of the sea. These were the same sounds that had cradled him in his youth, the same sounds that would cradle the next generation, and the next after that. To him, they were not just noises, but voices of the earth, eternal companions to every tale told beneath the stars. And as the village slowly dispersed, each family returning to their homes, carrying with them the comfort of his story, Eamon remained by the hearth, letting the rhythm of the night lull him into silence. In his heart, he knew that somewhere in the great tapestry of dreams, Oisín's song was waiting, ready to guide the weary, the hopeful, and the lost into gentle slumber. The fire in Eamon's cottage had burned low now, the turf peat glowing with a gentle red hue, like the last breath of sunset clinging to the horizon. Shadows stretched long upon the walls, soft and wavering, as though the cottage itself were breathing with the rhythm of the flames. A few of the younger villagers had already slipped into sleep where they sat, their small heads resting on their mother's shoulders, the cadence of Eamon's voice guiding them into dreams as naturally as the tide pulls the sea. Others lingered in the in-between, their eyes half closed, lulled by the warmth of the room and the story still echoing within their hearts. Yet some, especially the elders and those who carried heavy burdens on their minds, leaned forward, unwilling to let the spell of his words fade, unwilling to let silence take the place of his tales. To them, Eamon's voice was more than entertainment. It was a balm, a reminder of the old ways, a tether to a time when mystery walked hand in hand with the ordinary world. Eamon, sensing their longing, took a slow sip of warm tea from the clay cup beside him, the steam rising lazily, curling into the air like the ghost of a forgotten dream. He set it down carefully, and when he spoke again, his tone had softened, drawn even slower, as if he were turning the pages of a great and ancient book that only the night itself could read. His words carried not just meaning, but rhythm, the kind of rhythm that can be felt as much as heard, like a steady heartbeat or the gentle rocking of a cradle. "There is another story," he said at last, and though his voice was low, the room seemed to lean closer, the very air pausing to listen. "A story older than the stones that crown our hills, older than the rivers that carve their silver paths through the land, older even than the oaks that stand upon the ridges, roots deep in the bones of the earth. It is the tale of the Children of Lir, a story of love, of loss, and of the power of transformation." The villagers did not stir. Their breaths grew quieter, slower, as if each inhalation must tread softly so as not to disturb the weaving of the tale. Even the fire, once crackling with sparks, now seemed to dim its voice, glowing steadily in the hearth as though it, too, were listening. Outside the cottage, the wind swept gently across the fields, but its sound was no longer a presence at the edges of hearing. It seemed instead to harmonize with Eamon's words, a sigh of the earth itself leaning close to catch the story. Within the walls, the air carried a hush of expectancy, and every ear from the oldest farmer to the drowsiest child was tuned wholly to the storyteller. For they knew, as they always did, that what Eamon spoke was not mere invention, but a remembering, a thread of history and myth intertwined, passed down, not in books or ink, but in the living breath of words, shaped and reshaped across centuries. And so the night deepened, and the story of Lir's children began to unfold like a great tapestry woven with sorrow and beauty, each word falling into the quiet room like the steady patter of rain upon a still lake. In that moment, the villagers were no longer within the small stone cottage with its low thatched roof and glowing fire. They were upon the wide plains of Ireland before time had tamed them, standing on the shore of a dark lake where swans lifted their wings like white sails against a twilight sky. They could feel the grief of a father's love, the jealousy of a stepmother's heart, and the endless years of wandering that lay ahead. The story wrapped around them as surely as the woolen cloaks upon their shoulders, and one by one their thoughts slipped free of the day's labours and drifted into the timeless river of Eamon's voice. His telling was not hurried, not insistent, but gentle, like waves lapping upon the shore, each one carrying them further from the weight of waking life and closer into the calm embrace of dreams. Long ago, when Ireland was ruled by the Tuatha De Danann, there lived a nobleman named Lir, a mighty lord whose lands stretched wide and whose heart was both proud and tender. He loved his wife dearly, and together they had 4 beautiful children: Fionnuala, the eldest daughter, graceful and wise beyond her years, and her 3 brothers, Aud, Fiachra, and Con, each bright-eyed and full of life. But happiness in those days was as fleeting as mist on the mountains. Lir's beloved wife fell ill and passed from the world, leaving him in a sorrow so deep that the sun itself seemed dim to him. To ease his grief, he took another wife, Eoife, sister to the High Queen. At first, Eoife was kind and gentle to the children, showering them with care, but as seasons turned, envy grew within her heart. For wherever she went, the children drew the love of all, their beauty radiant, their laughter bright, and soon Eoife's affection soured into jealousy. One day, consumed by bitterness, she led the children to the edge of a quiet lake. There, with words heavy as stone, she raised her hands and called upon dark magic. A cold wind stirred, and before the children could cry out, they were transformed into 4 white swans, their wings vast and gleaming in the sun. Their human voices vanished, replaced by mournful cries that echoed across the waters. Only Fionnuala's heart remained strong, her love for her brothers unbroken. She folded her wings around them and whispered comfort in the language of swans. Oisín, perhaps softened by a flicker of regret, laid one mercy upon them. They would not remain swans forever, but for 900 years they would wander, bound to 3 waters, 300 years on Lough Derravara, 300 years on the stormy waters of the Sea of Moyle, and 300 years on the calm waters of Inis Glora. Only then would the curse be lifted, when the sound of Christian bells rang in Ireland. And so the Children of Lir lived their fate. For centuries they swam upon lakes and seas, their voices turned to sorrowful song. Their lament was said to be the most haunting music ever heard, a melody that could still the fiercest storm and soften the hardest heart. Fionuala, ever the protector, kept her brothers close. Through icy winters when the waters froze around them, through stormy nights when waves crashed over their wings, she sang to them, soothing their sorrow, reminding them of their father's love and the memory of home. Generations of men rose and fell, kingdoms changed, yet still the swans wandered, bound by the cruel magic of Oisín. At last, after 900 years, they found themselves on the waters of Inis Glora. By then, Ireland had changed. The old gods had faded, the druids' chants silenced, and in their place, the gentle sound of church bells rang across the land. When the swans heard those bells, their wings trembled. The curse melted away like snow in spring, and once more they stood as humans upon the shore. But they were no longer children. The years had caught up with them, and they were old, frail, yet at peace. A kind monk who had heard their tale baptized them and gave them comfort, and with their final breaths they fell asleep forever, not in sorrow, but in reunion, their spirits free at last. Eamon's words lingered in the air long after he had spoken them, tender and heavy with the weight of ancient sorrow. It was as though the cottage itself had fallen under the spell of his voice, its stone walls holding the silence like a sacred vessel. The only sound was the soft sigh of the wind pressing against the windows, a hush that seemed less like interruption and more like accompaniment, as though the night itself had leaned close to listen. The fire had grown lower, its flames now just a quiet bed of glowing embers. Yet even they seemed reluctant to crackle too loudly. Around the hearth, the villagers sat in stillness, wrapped in woolen shawls and blankets, their eyes reflecting the fading firelight. Some of the children clung a little tighter to their mothers, their faces touched with the shimmer of unshed tears, their young hearts caught between the wonder of fairy tales and the ache of the swans' eternal wandering. Others had surrendered fully to slumber, their small bodies curled like kittens against their parents, their breathing slow and steady, as if the rhythm of the story itself had carried them into dream. Even the elders, weathered and wise, felt the pull of memory and longing deep within them, stirred by Eamon's tale into remembering loves they had lost, or the bittersweet melodies of their own youth. Eamon closed his eyes for a moment, and in the hush of the room, it seemed he was listening beyond the present moment, reaching with his heart into some faraway place. Perhaps, in that silence, he too could hear the faint cries of swans upon distant waters, their voices carried on the breath of time, echoing through centuries of sorrow and song. His face was calm, yet touched by the kind of stillness that comes only from deep understanding. When at last he opened his eyes, the glow of the fire danced within them, and his voice returned, low and steady, as calm as the sea at dawn. "Such is the way of stories, my friends," he whispered, his words flowing gently, like ripples moving outward across a quiet lake. "They are not told only to entertain us, though they may bring us joy. They are given to remind us of love, of the bonds that hold us even when time pulls us apart. They remind us of loss too, the kind that presses on the heart like winter's cold, yet teaches us the depth of what it means to truly care. And they remind us of strength, the strength that carries us through the longest nights, through the darkest winters, through the years when sorrow feels endless. For though sorrow weighs heavy, it is never without its beauty. Even in grief, the swans still sing. and their song lives on in our dreams. The villagers breathe together as one, the weight of his words settling deep into them. Outside, the wind softened, brushing gently at the thatched roof as though in agreement, and the stars beyond the clouds shone with a pale, tender light. Within the small cottage, time itself seemed to slow, as if the night wished to linger in this moment of stillness. The children who had fallen asleep now stirred faintly, their dreams no doubt filled with silver lakes and white-winged swans gliding through endless twilight skies. Those still awake felt their hearts touched with a strange peace, the kind that comes not from forgetting sorrow but from understanding it, from carrying it with grace. For in Eamon's telling, sadness was never an end, but a bridge, a way of seeing beauty where one thought only loss remained. His listeners leaned closer to one another, seeking warmth not just from the fire but from the shared comfort of community, bound together by story, by memory, by the quiet truth that even in sorrow, love endures. And as the final embers dimmed and the hush of night wrapped itself around the cottage like a soft cloak, it was clear that none would leave unchanged, for they had not only heard a story, they had felt it, lived it, and carried it now into their hearts, where it would remain, glowing gently like the last red coals of the hearth. Take a deep breath now, dear listener. Let it be gentle, unhurried, like the tide drawing back from the shore. Inhale softly, as though you are breathing in the cool night air that drifts across a quiet meadow, scented faintly with heather and wild thyme. And as you exhale, let yourself imagine the swans gliding across a vast moonlit lake, their wings outstretched, their feathers glimmering as though brushed with silver dust. The water beneath them lies calm and endless, reflecting the sky as though the heavens themselves have bent low to touch the earth. Their voices rise in soft echoes, calling not in sorrow now, but in harmony with the hush of night, a lullaby that seems to soothe even the stars above. With each breath you take, feel yourself carried into that scene, as if your very soul has stepped lightly into the dream. Your feet no longer touch the earth. You are borne upon the water, moving with the swans in a slow and graceful rhythm, a rhythm older than memory, older than time. Here, nothing is rushed, nothing is demanded. Here, you are simply present, weightless, drifting in a world that has no end and no beginning, a world made only of calm water, moonlight, and the soft sound of wings brushing the air. Feel yourself drifting with them now, your body light as down, your thoughts melting into silence like snowflakes on the surface of the lake. Each breath is a feather, light and soft, floating upon the currents of air, carrying you farther and farther into rest. Each exhale is a ripple on the water, spreading outward, fading gently, leaving behind only stillness. The longer you remain here, the more you feel that nothing in the waking world can reach you. Not worry, not burden, not noise. You are safe. You are held, and you are cradled in the ancient embrace of stories older than the hills, older even than the stars. Around you, the swans keep watch, their eyes gleaming softly, guardians of this secret dream lake where sorrow dissolves into beauty and time itself stands still. Their wings rise and fall in perfect harmony, as if they are breathing for you, carrying your heart deeper into quiet with every beat. In this place, sleep is not a thing to strive for. It is simply the way of being, as natural as water holding the reflection of the sky, as natural as the breath moving gently through your body. Here, in this soft expanse of moonlight and water, you are more than safe. You are at peace. And now, as the fire in Eamon's cottage dims to its final embers, as the hearth glows with the faintest touch of red, the night itself deepens around you, drawing its cloak of stars more closely across the sky. Within that quiet, another tale begins to stir, not loudly, not hurriedly, but with the soft insistence of a dream waiting to be remembered. It drifts first like a whisper at the edge of hearing, like the sigh of wind across the grass, and then it grows warmer, like a candle flame appearing in the dark. This tale too has been carried across generations, wrapped gently in the folds of memory and song, waiting to unfold once more by firelight. And so, as you lie within the stillness of your own breath, you are carried with Eamon's listeners deeper into the dreamlands of Ireland, lands where mountains cradle secret glens, where rivers hum with voices of the past, where every stone and leaf has a story to tell. Here, stories are not just spoken. They are lived in every heartbeat of the land, every shimmer of moon on water, every quiet note of wind through the trees. And now, dear listener, as the swans glide softly into the shadows of the night, the next story rises to meet you, ready to carry you even further into rest, into dream, into the boundless quiet of sleep. Long ago, in the time of warriors and bards, there lived a hero named Oisín, son of the mighty Fionn mac Cumhail, leader of the legendary Fianna. Yet though Oisín was known for his courage, his true gift was not only in battle, but in the way he carried beauty in his heart. He was a poet as much as a fighter, a dreamer as much as a warrior. His words, when spoken, wove themselves into the hearts of those who heard them, soft as harp strings touched by the wind. His companions often said that his gaze lingered longer on rivers and skies than on swords, that he carried in him the spirit of both the battlefield and the meadow. And so it was that his story, unlike those of other champions, was destined not to end in war, but in something far more mysterious, far more eternal. One bright morning, as the Fianna rode through a meadow rich with green, where wildflowers bowed in the breeze and the air shimmered with summer light, Oisín felt the stillness of the world around him deepen. Birds hushed in mid-song, the wind paused, the earth seemed to draw breath. And from the horizon, like a vision carved out of sunlight and foam, a figure appeared. She came on a horse as white as sea foam, a steed so radiant its mane gleamed like threads of silk, its hooves barely brushing the grass. To the Fianna it seemed no earthly horse at all, but a creature born of dream and sea mist. And upon its back sat a woman whose beauty was such that even the morning sun seemed to dim before her. Her hair cascaded golden over her shoulders, brighter than any crown of kings. Her gown, woven with threads of emerald and silver, shimmered with each breath of air as if it had been spun from the light of dawn itself. Yet it was her eyes that stilled Oisín where he sat, eyes that seemed to hold the shimmer of faraway seas, deep and endless, and in them both mystery and promise. This was Niamh of the golden hair, daughter of a king of the other world, and she carried with her the air of places unbound by sorrow or time. When she drew near, her voice rose clear and soft, more melodic than birdsong at dawn. Oisín, son of Fionn, she said, her words like a breeze that stirs the leaves of every tree. I have heard of your beauty and your bravery, of your songs that stir the heart and your strength in battle. I have come from Tir na Nog, the land of eternal youth, to ask you to be my beloved. Come with me and you shall know no sorrow, no pain, no aging. In Tir na Nog, joy flows like a river and youth lasts forever. Around them, the Fianna listened in silence, hearts heavy with wonder and grief. They loved Oisín as their brother, and yet they knew that the call of the other world was not easily denied. To turn away from such a vision would be to turn away from destiny itself. They saw in Oisín's face the struggle of one who stands between two worlds, between loyalty to the mortal bonds of kinship and the irresistible pull of the eternal. And so it was that Oisín, moved beyond words by the light in Niamh's eyes, surrendered to that call. With reverence and awe, he mounted the white horse beside her. His companions looked on, knowing they might never see him again, their hearts aching with both pride and sorrow. Then the horse leapt forward, swift as thought, swift as dream, and carried them away. Across the fields they flew, faster and faster, until the very sea rose before them. Yet the waves parted like silk beneath the horse's hooves, and they rode not upon water, but upon a path of foam and light. Spray glittered like stars in their wake, and the cry of gulls grew faint behind them. Oisín looked back once, just once, and saw the green of Ireland fading into the horizon, the land of his birth growing smaller, more distant, until it was swallowed by mist. Before him stretched a land unlike any he had ever known, a place that glowed as if lit by a sun beyond the sky, where colours shone richer, where every breath was music, and where time itself seemed to fold away like a discarded cloak. This was Tir na Nog, the land of youth, and as he entered it, Oisín felt as though he was stepping not just into another land, but into another kind of being, one untouched by sorrow, untouched by age, untouched even by the memory of endings. Here began his great adventure, not of battle, but of wonder. Eamon's voice grew hushed, each word slow and heavy with meaning, as though he were laying each syllable down upon the stillness like a fragile leaf floating on water. So it is, he whispered, that joy and sorrow are often bound together, like the strands of a rope, inseparable, twisting through the fabric of every life and every tale. His eyes, half in shadow from the dwindling firelight, seemed to glimmer as if reflecting some memory known only to him. Oisín found a paradise beyond dreams, a world where time bowed low and beauty lingered without end. Yet even there, where no pain could reach him, his heart still ached for the soil of his homeland, for the laughter of his companions, for the rolling hills and wild rivers that had shaped his soul. In his longing, he lost what he could never reclaim, for paradise without belonging is a song half sung, a melody unfinished. But still, his story endures, and perhaps it always will, reminding us that even in loss, love and beauty leave their mark upon the soul, etching themselves like carvings upon stone, never to be erased. The cottage was utterly still now. Outside, the night had deepened, wrapping the hills in a velvet cloak where the stars wheeled silently above. The constellations, so familiar to the villagers, seemed to lean closer as though listening to the last strands of Eamon's tale. A few embers glowed in the hearth, their soft orange pulses breathing in and out like the steady rhythm of a sleeping heart. The scent of peat smoke lingered sweet and earthy in the air, blending with the faint fragrance of herbs that Eamon had hung above the fire to dry long ago. Around him, the villagers sat in a reverent hush, their faces softened in the dim glow, their hearts caught between wakefulness and dream. Mothers cradled their children, feeling the weight of their little ones grow heavier with each passing minute, while the men and women who had come weary from the fields now rested with eyes half closed, their burdens eased by the quiet spell of story. For a long moment, nothing stirred but the wind pressing gently against the windows, its sigh no longer mournful but tender, as though it too were soothed by the cadence of Eamon's voice. It rattled faintly at the shutters, not with force but with a patient insistence, like an old friend wishing to be let in. The fire popped softly, sending a tiny thread of sparks into the chimney, and the room seemed to exhale as one, the very walls of the cottage holding the warmth of shared presence, of gathered souls stilled together in wonder. Eamon looked at them all, his eyes lingering on the children whose small mouths curved in the faintest of dreaming smiles. He thought of how tales carried through the generations, slipping into the hearts of the young who would grow and one day pass them on again. He leaned back in his chair, the wood creaking quietly beneath him, and folded his weathered hands in his lap. His breath was unhurried, his movements gentle, for this was not just the end of a story, but a weaving of silence, a gift of peace that lay deeper than words. In his heart, he carried the knowledge that stories like Oisín's were not merely echoes of the past, but living things, seeds planted in the imagination of each listener, seeds that would take root in the stillness of their dreams. The room felt almost sacred now, not because of grandeur or ceremony, but because of the simple act of presence, the fire burning low, the villagers gathered, the night drawing its veil more closely around the cottage, as though to protect the fragile magic that shimmered there. And as Eamon closed his eyes for a moment, his lips curved in the smallest of smiles. For he knew that somewhere beyond the walls of time, the swans of Lir still sang upon the waters, and Oisín still rode across the waves with Niamh, his heart forever torn, yet forever filled with wonder. And now, dear listener, take a breath. Inhale slowly, letting the air fill your lungs like the tide rising softly against the shore, and then exhale gently like a wave withdrawing, leaving only smooth sand behind. Imagine yourself riding upon the white horse, its mane flowing like silk spun from moonlight, its stride steady and certain, yet lighter than air. The hooves do not strike soil, nor do they sink beneath the sea. Instead, they glide, carrying you across the gentle ripples of time itself, across the shimmering surface of an ocean that seems endless and alive with light. Beneath you, the waters whisper, murmuring secrets too ancient for words. And above, the night sky arches wide, each star a lantern guiding your way. The horse moves without haste, steady and sure, as though it has travelled this path for eternity, its breath warm and rhythmic, a lullaby in itself. You feel yourself becoming weightless in its stride, as though gravity loosens its hold and all that remains is a gentle sense of floating, of being carried where you need to go without effort, without worry, without end. Feel the cool night air on your face, a breeze that smells faintly of salt and wild heather, like the western shores of Ireland when the sea kisses the cliffs. The horizon stretches endlessly before you, not a line that separates sky and water, but a great embrace where both blend into one. It is neither day nor night, but a twilight that never fades, a soft in-between place where dreams bloom like wildflowers. Listen closely and you will hear it, the faint music of Tir na Nog drifting across the mist. It is not loud nor insistent, but gentle, as though it has been playing forever, waiting only for you to arrive and notice. There are harps, their strings touched lightly by unseen hands, sending ripples of sound like silver droplets falling upon still water. There is laughter, soft and distant, carrying no urgency, no demand, only the simple joy of beings who know no sorrow. The eternal song of joy hums beneath it all, a current so steady and constant that it seems to pulse in harmony with your own heartbeat. With every note, with every faint echo, you feel yourself relaxing more deeply, as if the music has seeped beneath your skin, dissolving every tightness, every thought that tried to cling to you from the waking world. Here, there is no rush, no weight, no worry. There is only the sound of eternity welcoming you home. And so, with each breath, let yourself drift closer to dreams. Notice how the weight of the day slips away, as though you have unfastened a cloak and let it fall silently to the earth behind you. Your body grows lighter still, your thoughts softer, like feathers caught on the breeze, drifting wherever the current takes them. You are safe here, as safe as a child curled in the arms of love itself. You are calm, floating gently upon the tides of sleep, and you are carried toward rest on the back of the white horse, its stride the rhythm of your own slowing breath. The stars above seem to bend lower now, watching over you tenderly, their light wrapping you in silver threads of protection. And as the last of Eamon's words fade into silence, let yourself slip into the land of your own dreams, where time has no hold, where peace lasts forever, and where every breath carries you deeper into stillness. Here, the story is not ending. It is only changing form, flowing into the dream that awaits you. Rest now, dear listener. Rest, and let the eternal song carry you beyond the horizon, into the realm where all is gentle, all is endless and all is well.